Here's something people have been saying about Gemini for as long as astrology has existed. They have two personalities, one bright, quick, playful version of themselves, and one quieter, more thoughtful version. The story is so familiar that most people don't even question it anymore. But what if this idea, as popular as it is, only scratches the surface? What if beneath those two well-known faces, there is a third one, hidden so deeply that even Gemini themselves don't always recognize it? And what if this secret layer is the one that actually explains everything people never seem to understand about them? It sounds strange, almost like a glitch in the cosmic code, a tiny crack in the Gemini matrix that only appears for a moment before it slips away. But anyone who has ever lived with a Gemini, loved a Gemini, or been one, knows that nothing about their emotional world is as simple as people like to assume. They move through life with a kind of invisible duality, yes, but also with an unspoken depth that can't be contained in only two versions. There's a third one, and once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it. Most people meet the first Gemini, the outward one, the version who laughs easily, talks quickly, and adapts to every room with the softness of a breeze and the sharpness of a spark. They can light up conversations, shift topics effortlessly, ask questions that make people feel seen, and disguise their own discomfort by focusing on others. When someone says Gemini is the life of the party, they're really talking about this version, the part of them built to navigate the world smoothly. It's real, it's sincere, but it's also a surface layer, designed to glide. And maybe you've seen that version. Maybe you've even believed that's all they are. Many people do. It's the one Gemini lets the world hold without fear, the one they can use to soften tension, fill silence, or protect themselves from being misunderstood. They know how to create connection with it. They know how to leave an impression with it. They know how to hide behind it when they need to. But then there is the second Gemini, the one fewer people meet. This version is quieter, heavier, deeper in its thinking. It's the one that shows up at night when the world goes still and the room softens. It's the one that rewinds conversations and replays feelings, searching for meaning in moments that happen too fast during the day. It's the Gemini who needs to retreat, not because they're tired of others, but because they haven't had time to process themselves. They do not change because they are unstable. They change because their mind moves quickly, and their emotions travel in threads beneath the surface. This second version observes more than it speaks. It analyzes tone, remembers details, and holds on to small moments that others missed. It is sensitive in a way people rarely imagine when they hear the stereotype of Gemini the talker. Sensitive, but not fragile. Quiet, but not weak. Deep, but not dramatic. It's the part of them that wants to understand, not impress. Anyone who has ever been close to a Gemini knows this version exists. They've seen the shift in their eyes when a topic becomes personal. They've heard the tone change when something touches a deeper space. They've noticed how Gemini becomes softer, slower, almost tender in their reflection. It's a side that surprises people. It doesn't appear often, but when it does, it feels like a privilege to witness. But the real mystery isn't in the first version or the second one. It's in the third, the one Gemini doesn't show easily. The one even they sometimes forget about until it rises unexpectedly, like a memory they didn't know they were holding. This third version is quiet, but not in the same way as the second. It's emotional, but not openly. It's vulnerable, but not fragile. It's the Gemini that appears only when something reaches into the softest part of their heart. If the first version is a warm breeze, and the second is a still night, the third one is the glow right before sunrise, when the world is half asleep and half awake. There is a gentleness to it that isn't often seen. It's the Gemini who feels deeply, but doesn't always have the words for what they feel. It's the Gemini who dreams more than they admit. It's the Gemini who gets attached quietly, carefully, almost secretly. And because they aren't used to expressing that part of themselves, they often mistake it for confusion, inconsistency, or emotional overload. This hidden version is the reason Gemini sometimes pauses in the middle of laughter and feels something strange tugging at their chest. It's the reason they can appear bold one minute and soft the next. It's why they sometimes retreat, not because they are bored or distracted, but because something inside them has been stirred. They feel more than they show, but they don't always know how to translate that feeling into something that makes sense to others. This is the part of them that bonds deeply, fully, quietly. It's the part that remembers kindness for years. It's the part that gets hurt when someone misunderstands their silence. It's the part that loves with sincerity that shocks even them. And because they are not used to showing this version, they often hide it behind the first two, pretending everything is light or pretending everything is reasoned. But the truth sits beneath both layers, glowing like a soft ember. When this third version appears, Gemini can surprise themselves. One moment they're joking, sharp, witty, multitasking between 6 different thoughts. And then, something in the room changes. A look, a tone, a memory, a sudden swell of emotion they didn't expect. And instantly, they turn inward, as if someone touched a thread connecting all the layers they keep hidden. They aren't unstable. They're responding to something real, something meaningful, something that speaks directly to the part of them that's rarely acknowledged. People sometimes label Gemini as inconsistent because of this. They see only the shift, but not the reason. They see the reaction, but not the feeling. They see the retreat, but not the depth behind it. They say Gemini is unpredictable, too quick, too changeable, too hard to understand. They don't realize they're interacting with only 2 layers, while the third one is the real source of everything Gemini is trying to make sense of. Gemini themselves don't always realize it either. They go through life, flipping between the first 2 versions, like pages in a book. Smile here, reflect there, laugh here, think there, connect here, withdraw there. They learn to manage their own rhythm without ever questioning why certain feelings feel so large, or why certain connections feel so intense, or why certain moments linger longer than others. They chalk it up to being complex, or emotional, or simply being a Gemini. But complexity isn't the enemy. It's the gift. And the more they learn to understand that third layer, the more they begin to realize they are not fragmented, they are layered. They are built with depth that reveals itself slowly, tenderly, to the people who have earned it. Imagine a Gemini sitting alone after a long day. The first version has done its job, carrying them through conversations, responsibilities, and social expectations. The second version is settling in, replaying the day with quiet introspection. But the third version stirs only when something touches them deeply. A message from someone they care about. A song that reminds them of a memory. A moment of gratitude they didn't expect. And suddenly, the entire emotional landscape shifts, becoming softer than anyone would believe. In that moment, the third version speaks. Not through words, but through a feeling that washes over them. Warm, tender, vulnerable. It isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's simply real. And if they trust it, it becomes the part of them that guides them to what matters rather than what distracts them. Gemini often grows up believing they are too much. Too quick, too changeable, too emotional, in ways they don't know how to express. But they are not too much. They are simply carrying a heart with layers that were never meant to be flattened into one idea or stereotype. Their duality was never the full story. It was only the beginning. When someone truly understands Gemini, they understand that their shifts are not inconsistencies. They are transitions between layers. They understand that their humor is sometimes a doorway, their quiet is sometimes a bridge, and their sudden vulnerability is sometimes the most honest moment of all. They see the beauty in the in-between places where Gemini rarely lets anyone stand. And when Gemini feels seen in that way, something extraordinary happens. All 3 versions begin to harmonize. They no longer need to hide the tender parts. They no longer need to pretend the softer emotions don't exist. They no longer need to carry the weight of confusion alone. They become whole. And in that wholeness, they glow differently. Brighter, calmer, truer. Loving a Gemini becomes easier when you understand that they have more than two faces. They have a hidden one that guides their heart. Accepting this hidden layer allows them to feel safe enough to share it. And when they do, they reveal a sincerity that is rare. A sincerity that feels like standing in early morning light, where everything is soft and honest and real. Understanding this third layer also makes it easier for Gemini to understand themselves. It explains why they sometimes feel overwhelmed by emotions that appear out of nowhere. It explains why certain moments feel heavier than others. It explains why their mind can be sharp and clear, while their heart trembles quietly beneath it. They've been carrying more than they realized, not because they are broken, but because they are capable of feeling with a depth they don't always acknowledge. When they begin to accept this part of themselves, their life changes. They become more compassionate with their own reactions. They become more patient with their own shifts. They begin to understand why they connect deeply to certain people and not others. They no longer judge themselves for retreating when something touches their heart. They begin to see these moments not as glitches, but as guidance. And maybe that's the real secret of the Gemini matrix. The glitch isn't a flaw. It's a doorway into a deeper understanding of themselves, one that allows them to stop apologizing for their emotional layers and start embracing them. They were never meant to be simple. They were meant to be intricate. They were meant to be surprising. They were meant to be filled with light coming from different directions. There is nothing inconsistent about a heart that feels fully. There is nothing wrong with needing time to process. There is nothing unusual about needing both connection and solitude. That's not contradiction. That's emotional intelligence. That's sensitivity. That's an inner world rich enough to require more than one version to express it. So the next time someone says Gemini has two personalities, smile a little, because the truth is more interesting than that. More beautiful than that. More human than that. There is a third version, one that explains why they love deeply, why they withdraw softly, why they glow subtly, and why they are unforgettable once you've seen the real parts of them. And if you are a Gemini listening to this, know this. Nothing about you is too much. Nothing about your emotional shifts is wrong. You are not inconsistent. You are layered in ways that make you rare. And the more you allow yourself to understand that hidden part of you, the more your life will begin to feel like it fits. Not because you've changed who you are, but because you finally see the whole version of yourself. The version with light, with shadow, with softness, with spark. The version with 3 layers, not 2. The version that has always been there, waiting for you to recognize it. And once you do, the world will make a lot more sense. Your connections will make more sense. Your reactions will make more sense. Your heart will make more sense. You will move through life not as someone trying to hold everything together, but as someone who understands their own design. The glitch was never a mistake. It was a message. A quiet reminder that the most beautiful parts of you were never meant to be obvious. They were meant to be discovered gently, layer by layer, by those who were patient enough to stay. And perhaps that is the real secret. Gemini doesn't have 2 personalities. They have one soul expressed in 3 different ways, each revealing a different truth, each carrying a different kind of light. And when all 3 finally align, they become something luminous, something steady, something whole.